And before the game, Karina Huber sat down with Liberty owner Joe Tsai. Tsai, as you heard, is also the majority owner of the Brooklyn Nets, an NBA team, and co-founder of Alibaba. Karina asked him why he chose to invest in women's basketball.
I want to support women's sports. Any father who has daughters understand that. My daughter plays sports in college. I think it's very, very important that young girls can look up to the role models. I believe that sports really develops leadership qualities. Things like you have to work as a team. Losing games is another thing. You have to be able to face challenges and bounce back from setbacks. All of those lessons are very, very important that you could carry through the rest of your life in a professional career.
And why this team, though?
It's a New York team. New York is an incredible city. I went to high school in New Jersey, so it's nearby. My first job coming out of law school was in New York. I met my wife here. So New York for me is sort of like a second home. And obviously through my association with the Nets, I've been spending quite a bit of time watching games here in this arena.
Yeah, so you currently own 49% of the Brooklyn Nets, which is the NBA team here in New York,
right,
with the option to buy the remainder in 2021. Do you plan on buying the remainder as well as the two stadiums, Barclays Center and Nassau Coliseum?
Well, I'm not going to speculate that, but I do have an option. I have the right to buy the other 51% of the team. It is up to the Michael Prokhorov, the current owner of the arena, to figure out what they want to do with the arena.
But you are definitely interested, correct?
Well, I would say all NBA owners, all the team owners, wish that they can also have participation in the arena.
Great. So why does it make sense from a business perspective to invest in basketball?
Basketball is a global sport. Internationally, there are fans everywhere. Just look at China. I think I've heard figures from anywhere from 300 million to 700 million fans that watch basketball, specifically the NBA. The NBA is the most watched sport in China on TV or on streaming media. And it's even bigger than soccer. And globally, outside China, you can see a growing fan base in India, in Indonesia, Philippines, even Mexico. So there's a lot of international growth opportunities.
And you mentioned that basketball is bigger in China than soccer. How did it get that way? I mean, and what role did social media play?
You have people like Yao Ming, people like Yi Jianlian, who came to the United States and really put the NBA on the map. And now there are a lot of NBA games during the season. It's on TV, it's on streaming media. So that's why a lot of people, and also it's a very accessible sport, right? Everywhere you go in a city, there are courts for young people. It's kind of a hip and cool thing to do.
And the NBA obviously is much bigger than the WNBA. Why do you think there's less interest in women's basketball, and will that ever change? I mean, will it ever be as big as the NBA?
I hope one day it'll be as big as the NBA. But generally speaking, I think not just basketball, but if you look at, I guess, comparing baseball and softball and soccer, it's you know, there's just more of the fan base are looking at the men's side of things. But there's a lot of work for us to do. I think people in our position can change things.
There have been complaints from WNBA players about pay and working conditions, and the union representing the players will negotiate with the league come this fall. What kind of concessions do you think will be made for the players?
I don't know, because that's up to the league to figure out. They're in the front lines to negotiate with the union. But I would say this, I think it's important for all the owners in the WNBA to focus on building their fan base. If there are fans that are coming to the games live, that means the value of media and the value of sponsorship rights and things like that will go up. When there's more commercial value that come into the league, there's more economics to spread to everybody.
You live in the United States, but you do a lot of business in China. I wanted to get your take on how worried you are about the state of the current China-U.S. relationship.
I think the relationship between China and the United States is the most important, most consequential relationship for both countries in the next 1, 2, 3 decades. It's going to define how prosperous the world will become. So having a positive relationship, having a symbiotic relationship is very, very important. And I think that the two countries have a lot of things to work on, and there's a lot of symbiosis.
Do you think the will is there, though, to work together?
I think so. I think despite what's happening with the trade negotiations, I think there is a trade kind of imbalance that people need to solve. But I think between the two peoples, between the scientists from both countries, between the technologists and the business owners, I think there is a lot of will to work together.
And lastly, what role do sports play in fostering better relations?
Well, you can see, I mean, we're now bringing the Chinese women's national team to the United States to play. This is an experience for them to see this country, and that also for the fans here to get exposure to the Chinese players. This kind of people-to-people exchange is very, very important.